Hey, y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, as part of our Elements of Handicapping the Kentucky Derby series, we've reached part 3, which will be speed, and we will concentrate on the contenders, how they've done speed figure-wise, and we'll look at a couple of different variations on that. So let's take a look at the field. Okay, part 3 is speed. It's the record and evaluation of each contender's speed figures in comparison to the field and Kentucky Derby pars. And the par for Kentucky Derby is around somewhere between 100 and 105 on the Beyer scale, and it's about 105 on the Brisnet scale, just to give you an indication. This is FOrte, but as we look, one thing to note is the Beyer number is, in some cases, it'll be their last Beyer. In other cases, it'll be their top. And that's just because I don't have that data available. But based upon, the most recent number, if we can get it, and I'll try to elaborate so you can tell the difference. Obviously, FOrte got the Florida Derby got a 95 Beyer, got a 100 Brisnet number. And on the thorograph, which some of you may use, is a kind of a way to graphically chart speed patterns among horses, and it's pretty good because it includes ground loss, wind, beaten lengths, a lot of different factors, so that you have a universal speed figure no matter what the track is. And the lower the number, the better the race. Now, for FOrte, he got a 3.2. That was a slightly lower number than he had in the Fountain of Youth. In other words, he regressed a little bit. That's a little troubling from a pattern standpoint, but he's still competitive in this field, and that's why for a speed grade he's going to get a B+, because he still can factor in this race. It's not that much of a regression to think that he's going to completely bounce, but it may indicate that he's not necessarily going to give a peak effort either. So for that reason, he gets a B+. Angel of Empire, his last Beyer was the Arkansas Derby. That was his career high at 94, which you always want to see. And he got a 101 Brisnet. Thorograph, he got a 2. And he paired that from the race before. So he is in a pattern to have another peak effort, and that's why he gets the plus sign. He gets an A- because 94 is still a little light to be considered a Derby winning speed figure. But he's certainly trending in the right way, and it's likely that he's going to run something higher than he ran before. So A-. Tapit Trice hasn't done anything wrong as far as speed goes. He's getting faster with every race. You see he just ran a 1 for the Bluegrass Stakes, got a 99 Beyer, and by all accounts, his pattern indicates he's going to run another race to move forward from that. So he's right on line to be a win candidate for the Derby, so he gets an A. Dermis Odagaki, these are, the Beyer I have here is just an estimate of the UAE Derby at a 103. I've heard 106. I tend to be conservative with these type of numbers. Obviously, we don't have anything for the Brisnet number, but we do have a thorograph. And the thorograph indicates that he ran a 1.2 last time, which is a pretty darn good race, and that he is possibly will run something equal to that or perhaps a little better next time is potentially. Now, there's a lot of other factors involved in that. From a pure speed standpoint, he gets an A- only because it was Japan. But other than that, he fully meets all the criterion, and you expect him to run a really good race. Practical Move, he got a 100 Beyer in the Santa Anita Derby, and that paired the one he got in the San Felipe, got a 100 Brisnet number. The troubling one is he got a 4.2 thorograph, and that was a regression from what he got in the San Felipe. That's an indication that he is on the downslide. So it's not likely that he's going to run anything better coming up to the Derby. So he gets a C+ because certainly his speed numbers are commensurate with a Derby contender, but it's likely that he's probably not going to run something comparable or better than that the next time. So C+ it is. Two fills, we've got granted the AW stands for all weather. As we know, we ran the Jeff Ruby Stakes, ran a really big race, as you can see by the numbers, but it was on synthetic. So he got a great thoroughgraph number, a 2, and he's got a good pattern to be moving forward. We do have some questions about him, whether or not that form from synthetic will translate to dirt. So he's going to get a C+, mainly because he was a little cut below on the dirt in the Derby preps. So he's definitely on the right track. He's making progress, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to translate this to dirt, so consequently gets a C+. Hit show just got a 93 for the Wood Memorial, where he finished second. Got a 99 Brisnet number. Those are all not too bad. Problem is he regressed on the thoroughgraph. He got a 4.2. That was a number dropping from his Withers performance, and that would indicate that he's not in good form or wouldn't necessarily be moving forward next time. That's just from a speed standpoint. There may be some other factors that, he did have a trouble trip. They try to account for all of that. So that's really kind of makes the number a little more concerning to me. He gets a C because those numbers are kind of cut below what it would take to win the Derby, and the outlook that he would perhaps move forward to have a bigger number are a little remote. So he gets a C. KINGSBARNS, we all know that it's kind of hard to read what he's all about, but from a speed standpoint, he is progressing every race this year. He's got a very good pattern, and he's advancing, so it's likely he's going to run another good effort on topping what he just did, so that's why he gets a plus. The 95 for the Louisiana Derby, it was such a queer race and was so slow and all that. It's kind of hard to really evaluate that number by comparison to, say, Angel of Empire got a 94. It's kind of hard to do that. But all indications are that this one is progressing and that it'll likely a better effort, perhaps a 2, which would put him right in line to be a Derby serious win candidate contender. So for that, he gets a B+. Mage is really on the right track. He got a 94 in the Florida Derby, Brisnet 99. Those are they're on the verge, but not quite there. But the thing is, he's progressing, and by his thoroughgraph number, he's ready to make another move forward. So those are all really positive signs from a speed standpoint, and that's why he gets an A- because he's got. It looks like he's sitting on another big one, and if he does, that would make him a viable contender in the field. Verifying conversely, just got a 99 for the Bluegrass, and we all saw it, that duel with Bluegrass with Tappet Trice, and he got a 102 Brisnet. Those are both in line with being a Derby contender. The problem is he ran a really big race. He got a 1.2, but by the thoroughgraph, he's ready for a bounce. He's probably not going to build on that. So that's why he gets a C+, because the speed numbers he's at right now are commensurate, but it's not likely that he's going to move forward from that. And so that's a little troubling. DISARM got a 95 at his high and a Brisnet of 97 for the Lexington. He got a 5 for the thoroughgraph. That's a little on the slow side, but he is slated to he does have a pattern that indicates he's going to be moving forward, but it might not be fast enough. That's really the bottom line to it, and that's why he gets a C. So if you like him, it doesn't mean that he won't run a better race or something competitive. It's just not likely he's going to run that standout number that's going to make him a solid win candidate. So he's more, from the speed standpoint, you maybe want to think him more about under. Reincarnate is a real weird one. He's been weird all year. He's kind of, we just, from that 95 he got in the sham earlier in the year, he really hasn't built on it since he's transferred west. And he sort of hovered around 4.3 for a thoroughgraph number, and he's just sort of stayed there. So perhaps, he could move forward, maybe not. But he, just on the general overall speed picture, he looks a cut below. He just hasn't built on anything he did out west. And the Brisnet number he just got for the Arkansas Derby is well below par. So I'm pretty borderline with this one, and I think from a speed perspective, he's probably a toss. Rocket Can, the Buyer 91 isn't going to cut it. and neither is the Brisnet number. By the Thorograph, though, he's paired fours, so he has the potential to move forward, and he's got a pattern where he would be advancing, and it's quite possible. I mean, I think this horse is tapped out myself, but if he did make a little bit of a move forward where others are regressing, then perhaps you might find a way to craft out a trip where he ends up on the bottom of the exotics. I think that's the best this one can do. I just think he's a cut below, and that's why he gets a C. Lord Miles is another one that, he's had a very erratic training, as we know. He got a 93 for the Wood Memorial, but that's not going to be good enough. And the Brisnet number wasn't bad. But the Thorograph, he got a 4.2, and that was a fairly big jump from what he had. And it's not likely that he is going to make a monster move forward from a speed perspective that puts him as a winning candidate for the Derby. Now, is it possible that he could still end up in the money? Yeah, he could, especially since he's got plenty of stamina. But that's another category. Just from a speed perspective, I think he's a cut below, and I don't see where he's necessarily going to take that big jump that would make him a Derby winner. So he gets a C. Sun Thunder, his best is an 89. It's just not good enough. Nor is the Brisnet number, and he just ran a 6, and that's pretty much where he's been at this year. We know that from a speed perspective, he really needs a lot of pace to run his best race, and he's really not progressing in a fashion that tells you that he's going to run a big race in the Derby. So, and he's probably not going to get the pace he needs either, so he gets a C minus. Continuar, again, a Japanese horse. We don't know a whole lot about him, but we do know that he got a 4 from the Thorograph in the UAE Derby. And judging by his preps earlier in the year in conjunction with this, he is on a pattern to move forward. The question would be, is that going to be enough to be competitive? Now, from a speed standpoint, if you judge it by how he did against Derma Sotogake, maybe underneath is probably the best this one can do. And judging by what other things that I've heard in terms of, and seeing his prep races, seeing he's a little one-paced and more of a grinder, he's probably going to move forward, but I doubt it's going to be enough to be a win candidate here. So he gets a B minus because he is improving, but the question is how much can he improve, and it's probably not enough to put him in the winner's circle. So we can think about it from that perspective. Raised Cane, the Buyer 90 Buyer isn't going to cut it, nor is the Brisnet figure. The 4.2 is a little on the slow side, and he is progressing, though. He's in a pattern to run a better race, but he's probably going to be a little slow, and he's likely coming from behind without a lot of pace to run to. So I don't really like, from a speed perspective, I don't really think he's one I'd be considering terribly much. Confidence Game, we've talked about it. He got the 94 in the Rebel, 95 in the Brisnet, but he hasn't been seen since. He got a 2 for the Rebel Stakes, which is a pretty good number, but I don't think he's going to build on that, particularly when I think he's got distance questions when it comes to this race. And judging by what I saw in the Rebel, obviously that's pace is another thing altogether, but I don't really think I don't see him as qualifying as a win candidate for certain. And I really don't think he's going to do for a good race. And so I'm going to give him a C minus. Probably not going to think about him speed wise. Jason's Road, the high 90 Buyer, the Brisnet 91, those are well below average. And he got a 4.3 for the Louisiana Derby in a race that he really didn't factor in despite finishing third. He's pretty much due for a regression, and I just don't like anything about him in this race, and that's why the D+. He's a toss speed-wise. Conversely, Skinner is a great addition to this group. He has got a 99 Buyer in the Santa Anita, he got a 99 Brisnet figure, but most importantly, in the Santa Anita Derby, he finished third, and yet he got a better Thorograph number than Practical Move or Mandarin Hero because of the ground he lost being on the outside. He is poised to run a monster, and he's a really intriguing candidate. The only question I have is where is he going to be pace-wise because he's not going to have a whole lot to run to, we don't think. But as far as a speed perspective, he is on the right trajectory, and I think he's sitting on a big one. So he is an absolute A. So that's the field. Now, if we take a look at from our speed evaluation, the definites, these are ones that we absolutely want to use, are FOrte, Angel of Empire, Tapit Trice, Derma Sotogake, Mage, KINGSBARNS, Skinner, and Continuar. Those are all horses that will either stay at their current level or make a move forward. So we definitely want to be using them. The possibles are Two Fills, DISARM, Reincarnate, Lord Miles, and Raise Cane. Those are ones that they probably are going to make a move forward. The question is whether it will be good enough to factor in the race, either in the underneath or as a win candidate. So you can go either way with them and mix and match as you choose. The tosses, now this is just based on speed, are Verified, Hit Show, Rocket Can, Sun Thunder, Raise Cane, Confidence Game, and Jason's Road. And did I just make a mistake that I noticed? Yeah, I did. Okay. Consider Raise Cane a possible. I apologize for that. These are ones that, based upon speed alone, they're probably not in a good place to move forward where it would be significant, or they're likely to stay where they are and it isn't good enough. So one of those two things, and those are the tosses. So that's what we look like for speed. I don't know about you, but this last part was the most revealing to me and really had some surprises in it that I didn't necessarily expect to see. And it's kind of funny how some horses can qualify and look really good in one end, and then you get to another section and they don't look good at all. And some of them check all the boxes, and that's the ones. Those are the ones that we want to focus on for this year's Derby, of course. And I think we're getting there. We will have our fourth part, Pace, coming up fairly soon. And, of course, if you like what you see here, please like and subscribe. And we do thank you for tuning in. And I love the comments, love the feedback I'm getting from you guys. Really appreciate it. Derby, I'm still working on that trivia question. That's a pretty tough one, pretty broad. A lot of horses to think about with that one. But we'll see if we can come up with it. And we're going to have a lot more coverage next week, getting the closer we get to the Derby. So we'll have a few other things, including we'll wrap up our 4 parts of handicapping and get down to a final short list of contenders. So be on the lookout for that as well. So I'll be talking to you in the near future, and until then, be well.